Welcome to Cards of Insight, where we discuss all things tarot. And I'm Greg, and I live in London.
Anna here, joining you all the way from sunny Brazil.
Susan here. I'm here in Canada.
And Pavlina, greetings from London, UK.
And we are all tarot readers.
So, hi guys. You know what? I bought this deck, which is collectible, very old deck on eBay. And I just was wondering about how I should clean this deck because this has been used before. It's collectible, obviously. But how do you clean the decks like that?
You're asking me?
I guess anybody. Is it an old deck, right?
I would open up by saying, like, lots of people have different traditions and beliefs. So I've seen different ways that people can cleanse cards, and people have their own personal preferences. Well, I believe so. It depends on the person, really, what system you're going to use, or your preferred method of cleansing will be up to the person.
So let's make it kind of clear. We're cleansing. We're not cleaning, right?
Sorry, cleansing. Yeah.
Both can be done. I remember a friend of mine bought an old deck. The deck was what? No, you said it right. But the deck was, grimy. It was horrible. She actually had to clean it. So we might dedicate one podcast on how to actually clean your deck without damaging the card, especially if it's a collectible. But now we have the cleansing thing. How do you do that, Greg? Usually, do you buy old decks, collectibles, secondhand?
I've had secondhand decks, and they weren't too much in a bad state, but it was somebody else's cards. So I'm aware of that. So I would have to do some type of cleansing or cleaning. It's different for different people. I've seen people do it differently. Me personally, and I don't know the person, I will literally give it a clean, not a cleanse, but actually a clean. Go through them, look at them, and actually wipe them down.
How do you do that?
With a wet wipe, with a wet cloth.
Oh, no, really?
Literally, just but you want to do it with the ones with the plastic on.
Yeah, but you know what, Greg? This deck is made from old paper. It's from 1900. So I'm just really worried water is going to damage it.
No, then put it in sea salt. Get yourself a bowl of sea salt.
That's going to damage the print as well.
Dried sea salt.
Either that, what I had to do with the deck was I wrapped it up in silk. That's what I was reading, and I was wrapped up in silk, and I also added incense, like I put in something like that, but different herbs, and just because there was a scent to it, and then I want to clear it out, because it was an old deck and given to me from a friend, and I thought, okay, I need to cleanse the deck, and this is what she had suggested to me, actually. So I just thought, okay, I'm going to do it, and it took a few days, but it did work. And I think I even put some baking soda in it, like it had it for smell, baking soda and some incense, some sort of incense. So I sort of like cleansing or cleaning, like you talk about. It's another way of doing it, because if you don't want to wipe it down with an actual damp cloth or anything.
Okay.
And because of the smell, like wiping it down would not change that.
Yeah, I just use sea salt. That's it. On paper cards, I would just use a bowl of sea salt and leave it in there.
I would be worried about the ink, with the sea salt, because, the sea eats everything. So, it's like very drastic.
Yeah. Why would you want do you want to clean it? Clean because it's dirty? What sort of...
I mean the cleanse, because it's somebody else's energy. Those cards are like 80 years old, right? And it's just a collectible because I love the deck and I just bought it from collector. It's never been used heavily, obviously you can see it's a H deck, but still it's a different energy.
Mhm,
So
of
I
course.
want to just welcome them home and clean the old energy and add them to my collection.
I would also, and I mean, you probably will do this, but I would probably go through each card and, touching it and then, flipping through
Mhm.
it. And then once you're gone through it, shuffling it. So you're changing the energy on the card from whoever held it for. So between, cleansing it with whatever you want to watch with sage or anything like that, but just touching that deck. And I mean, even with new decks, I do that. Like I'll try and put myself into the cards, that energy of me, so
Mhm.
that it becomes more personal to me. And especially with an old deck, like you said, there's probably, who knows who's touched this deck.
Mhm.
So you want to impermanate it with yourself,
A
I'll
good
say.
point Susan mentioned there is going card by card, because sometimes there are cards missing, even
Yeah,
with the good
good point.
ones. Yeah, that's a practical thing. It's not really cleansing, but checking if everything is there.
And I've had that. I've purchased new decks, and from that experience, I've learned you need to look at and that's why we'll not shuffle a deck once I receive it until I've gone through every single card to ensure that they're all there. Because I've had it more than once, unfortunately, where even a new deck and not all the cards are there. Or I could have purchased a used deck as well. It's the same story. You want to put them all in order and then go through all the cards to ensure that they're all there before you even start, say, to do whatever cleansing or whatever process you want to do. It's simply making sure that you've got all the cards that it says is supposed to be there.
Are you talking about a new deck or a deck you always use?
It would be either. Like if I purchase it, and I have purchased used decks, I would ensure that all the cards are there, whether it's new or old, or an old deck.
See, okay, because I always this thing with when does a deck actually need cleansing, and what might surprise some people, it surprised me, is that sometimes it's not the deck that needs clearing, it's you. So sometimes I would take a deck and then it just doesn't feel right. Either have no idea how to interpret it, I'm just having a bad day because it just makes no sense, and I just feel no, it doesn't feel right. Then all I do is I just change the deck. Then I come back on another day and try the old deck again, and then most of the time will be okay. If it's not, I start going, and then I use the other deck, and I start getting problems with the other deck. Then I know that that's me. But if the other deck's doing okay, then I know that the other deck needs cleansing. So what I do is I literally take out a wet wipe and I wipe them down, because for me it's very therapeutic, because I've got to go through the whole deck of 78, like you said, and concentrating it and sort of getting rid of the marks is a form of cleansing. And I always find after I've done that, my readings tend to be a little bit better. So whether it's clearing my mind or the cards, it's a bonus. Where it comes with a new pack, it's like that I've got from somebody else, or a second-hand pack. I don't know where it's been. So if it looks clean enough, then I wouldn't wipe it down because I'm a little bit lazy. But what I would do is put it in a bowl of sea salt and just leave it in a bowl of sea salt for a night or 3 nights under the moon. I just leave it in there under the moon. And sea salt that you've got yourself from the sea and you've actually evaporated the water is a lot more powerful. But sea salt, you can go and buy a normal rock salt. But I don't know if you're going to damage the cards. It's never happened with me.
So you put them in a box
in a bowl, and just put
No,
salt.
I mean, are they in the box?
In the box, yeah. Or sometimes in silk. I have a little silk baggie, but I don't put that in the salt because I like to carry that with me. But I put the cards in the box and then, or sometimes elastic band, just to hold them together. Yeah, but I wouldn't put the elastic band in the salt. I just put the cards there. Then just put the salt on. Just leave
You
it.
see, this is very interesting for me because I can't buy this deck as a new, because this is let's consider it's an antique now, right?
Rare.
And It's something.
Very rare.
I really like the art in this playing card deck. I'm just like really careful about the deck, how I should go and read it and clean it. I think what I will do is I will take it out, obviously in a protected box in full moon as well, and
Mhm.
then maybe using the crystal on the top of the deck for some time, just sitting there and maybe cleaning that, and then I will try card by card and see if I can start to read from that.
Mhm.
What kind of a crystal would you use? Because I've been reading, like, when you cleanse a crystal, you use a very specific, like, saddle, and I don't know how to say it, Selenite. That's
Selenite?
a regular satellite, yeah. Because selenite is meant to clean crystal, but it's also can be used to cleanse a deck. That's my
Okay.
understanding. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, I have to check my collection of the crystals, what I have.
The quartz as well is good. The smoked quartz is good too. The clear ones and the
Right.
smoked ones are good too.
I just put the clear one on top of it's in a silk bag, and then when I finish
Mm-hmm.
the cards, put it in a silk bag and just put the quartz crystal on top. But I don't
Yeah,
even do it that
and for
often.
those who like it and who are comfortable using, you can ask the deck if it's charged or if it needs cleaning with a pendulum.
Oh, I didn't know
That's a
you
good
can clean
idea.
it.
Yes.
You can actually ask. I've never thought of that.
But there's a thing, you have to really be able to be impartial. I mean, some people
Mm.
manage to simply ask yes or no and not influence the pendulum to turn the way they want it to turn. But you can ask the deck. Some people use touch. For me, when the deck feels thick, then it's time for a cleansing. It depends on, it depends on
It's
each reader.
got like a sticky feel to it. I find it difficult to
Yeah,
shuffle it.
it's
That's
it's
what I
it's
get.
like
It's like
like the paper stock has gone thicker.
it's weird.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's like understanding that this is a tool that you use, and
Yeah.
you have to maintain it, and you might have to do a certain amount of maintenance every so often. Like you
Yeah.
said, yeah, Anna, you're feeling like it's gooey or whatever that
Mhm.
doesn't feel good. So it's obviously that's a time where you have to do some maintenance.
Yeah.
I've also seen a lot of oracle decks more than tarot decks, but you could do the same. A lot of them will do like a prayer or some sort of serenity, something, little poem or whatever, a process to prepare that deck, usually a new deck, but I mean, there's nothing wrong to say with an older deck, to prepare that deck, to cleanse that deck of
Mhm.
past vibrations, and then make it more open to receive your connection with it.
Mhm. Yes. There's incense that everybody likes to
Yep.
use, or sage. I personally use
Mm-hmm.
fire. I don't
Mhm.
burn my cards, but
Okay.
I pass each card by a candle flame, back and front. Very fast, 1 by 178 cards plus 2, because it's the back and the front.
I'd be
But
afraid
that
of burning them.
no, it doesn't. No, you have to do it fast, because if you do that with your finger, you don't burn your finger, so you won't burn the card. This
Okay.
is for severe cleansing, when the deck is actually being nasty with you, because sometimes the deck keeps giving you horrible messages, downright rated X. And that's interesting. That works a lot, and that works really well too. But don't be afraid. Try it with a piece of paper once, and then you see nothing really happens. It's done really fast, so that can be done too. Sorry, Pavlina, you were going to add some.
Yeah, I just wanted to ask you, so if you get a new deck, do you do the same procedure with the fire?
No. The fire is for real. It's like bleaching a deck. See, when the dirt and the energy is so bad that you really have to go all out. No, I usually check my new decks, and new decks for me usually don't carry energy. I don't associate. Some people in the community associate the character of the creator to the deck. If they don't like what the creator stands for, then they don't like the deck because the deck may carry that energy. I don't feel that way. For me, it's a tool. It's just like what Susan said. It's just like a hammer or whatever. It's either good or bad for me. So no, with new ones, I don't do that. Only with used decks that I have been using and that are really heavily charged.
So
Mhm.
can I add to what Anna said? Because Anna said that Anna runs them over a flame, because that's Anna's system and that's Anna's method. Whereas, which is a bit quicker than mine, because mine's actually wiping the cards down. So my system is a little bit different from Anna's, but we have our own personal methods of cleansing them.
Mhm.
And Anna pointed out a good fact, a good point is, how do you know if your cards are actually need cleansing? Because like I said earlier, that sometimes it can be me. And Anna put it a good way, that sometimes it can feel sticky or they just don't make sense. It's as if they're not talking to you. There's sort of a resistance. That I don't go straight away to cleansing them. I just put it down to a bad day and I try a different deck. But if I tend to get that same sort of resistance on the other deck, I'm going, is it me, or are the cards not talking to me today? And then if that persists, the card needs cleansing, because I tried the other deck and it was okay. And then I literally go each card and I wipe it down and I look at it and I check the back, and the card just feels clean when you put it down. And straight away when I give it a new shuffle, it just feels nice. And what I do as well is a reshuffle is always good. So once you've cleaned your cards, you do a reshuffle. Sometimes you just spread them all over the bed, like what I do, and then mush them all together. I think they call it 52 pickup in normal cards, 78 pickup, and you do that. And you just mix them, because I do reversals, and then you will just feel, as soon as you start shuffling, it just feels cleaner. And with a new deck, I would wipe it down and I would put it under sea salt, but I don't do the sea salt often.
I've got a question. Why do
Yeah.
you think the deck you use would need a cleaning? Because is it because you let your clients shuffle the deck? Because, for example, I don't let people to touch my deck. That could be first version, or is it because the deck is tired?
I think most of the time it's actually me, right? My cards want to talk to me because I need rest, but also I think if I'm angry, I think it goes into the cards. Just think that they just feel angry. Anna's right, they sort of feel angry. So I don't know where it's coming from. That's actually a good question.
I think it comes from everybody. I think the energy, we cannot really focus on, oh, this is my energy because I touched it. No, you don't need to touch to carry energy. If you stand next to a person who is disturbed, having a bad day or whatever, you can feel it without touching the person. So the energy in your cards can be from you because you're in a bad day. It can be from the client because the client is in a bad day. It could be from the topic. If the topic is really, really, it's a dark topic or a complicated topic or a heavily charged topic, it could be from the environment. I mean, if you have two nice people reading at a cemetery, you can absorb stuff from there too. So I think it's difficult to say where it comes from, but I don't let people touch my decks because of just the oil in their hands. That's it. Nothing to do with energy. I don't think it matters that much if they touch or if they don't touch. They can bring bad energy even without touching. If they look at the cards, they can send bad energy through their eyes. So it doesn't make any difference. It protects the decks more if they don't touch it. In case of Pavlina, it's a rare deck. So she's not going to let people shuffle it, play around with it.
Antiques are not going to be shuffled by anybody.
I mean, I'm not mean. I mean, if somebody's looking at a card, is interested in it, wants to pick it up to have a closer look, I don't have any objections to that. But when they're going to just try and choose a card at random and say, oh, that's for me, or try and interpret the card, if they're not psychic themselves, then that's when but they're allowed to touch my cards. That's not a problem. But
I used to let, when I first started learning tarot, I used to let the client shuffle the cards because that was the process that I understood until I actually got training from from someone else, and they explained to me like they never give the deck to be shuffled by their client because of the question or the nature. Because what would happen is that they tell you the question, but if they're shuffling it, if they weren't honest or whatever and there's a hidden question, as we all know, the person is asking a question, but really that's not the real question.
Mhm.
So by you shuffling and controlling it, that's the vibration that you're putting into the cards as well. And I've gone by that since learning that I'd rather be in control and shuffle the cards. And usually, hey, well, because we do a lot more things online, you are the one shuffling the cards. So therefore, the question that person's asking, and the more that, and I find it as I'm talking to the person, I'm shuffling. So that way their energy and their question are going into the cards, and
Mhm.
I'm controlling that from my standpoint. So I can focus more on that. And then, and I know a lot of you have said the hidden, and I know that's not necessarily what we're talking about here today, but you will ask the cards, what is the real question before you even do their question. So that's a different thing. But
Mhm.
usually I like to control the what's happening by being the one that holds the cards, and that's what I've continued to do going forward. And I know that some people will do the three, divide the deck into three and say, well, pick one.
Yeah.
And that's an okay thing to do as well.
How can you be comfortable with that? Because, well, if I'm trying to interpret a reading, I'm shuffling the cards. My cards are talking to me, and then I get, okay, stop, halve the pack, deal them out, and flip them when I turn up. I have a dialect, certain agreements, and I'm a conduit. So when somebody else is just going there and shuffling it and thinking whatever they want, it's a waste of time. So give them back to me, and then I'm going to go and then reshuffle them. I don't like it. I don't know how. That's me personally. I wouldn't. No, leave my cards alone.
You
They can pick them up, like I said, and have a look and say, "Oh, look at that."
you see, Greg, I think because do you own any Kipper cards or Gypsy or Lenormand cards?
No, you see, maybe that's why I don't have any like.
Because if you open the books of Tao and you will read, especially in the Kipper cards on Gypsy on any of those, if you open the book, there is like how to do the reading, and that is literally said. You have to ask the person to, like pick the card,
Oh,
different
right,
things.
okay.
This is what I experienced in the beginning because when I read first time Kipper cards, I've got like I think 40 years old gypsy cards. And in the booklet, it's literally instruction. The person who's single is doing, taking the cards from the right hand, who's committed, left hand, all those rules that I think what I figured out it doesn't work for me, even though I can see some really good readers, because I need to understand my own energy of the cards. If you have like two people inside of the cards, it's too much.
Yeah, okay. You
Mhm.
know, 'cause, like another way to put it is, I know, like maybe I'm a little bit more lenient when people touching my cards, and I don't want them to shuffle for me. But I've got like a deck of cards, and the box is like getting really worn. Now, I can easily just start using the new pack, but I'm not going to do that. I like the old one. I've actually taped up the box with silver tape, and I keep preparing the box and taping it up because I like that pack. So I am quite attached to my cards, even though they're like not expensive cards or anything. If they're expensive cards, I wouldn't let anybody touch them. But they're personal. I'd rather repair the box
Uh-huh. They're part of you. They belong to you. There's your energy in it too. I think as far as, the procedures, whether you let them touch it, whether you follow the book instructions, I think it
Yeah.
really, in the end, it doesn't really matter. You pick the method that works for you as a reader and you stick to it. I think that's what matters the most. Be consistent. Once you find your way of doing things and that works for you, then that's what you're going to use.
Yeah.
Period. It's not wrong or right. It's right for you. It's right the way you read it. And, if people keep saying, no, that's not the right way, just forget it. It works for you. It's just like tools. I mean, people use tools differently and they know what to do with them.
Well, guys, I mean most guys, or even women with their pots and pans, right? Like a man with a hammer or what? If you have a hammer, not necessarily a man, or a screwdriver or whatever, those are your tools. You don't want to lend them out. So I feel that same way with the cards. I don't want to lend or have someone else touch it because they'll take that hammer, for example, and they'll be hammering on something going, oh, I'll be judgmental of it, saying, oh, they're going to damage my hammer. Well, I guess I feel the same way about my cards. It's like I don't want you to, be bending them a certain way. That in itself is, can be, oh my God, like I've spent so much on these cards and now they're bruising my cards. So that's what I a lot of time, like what I'll do sometimes as well as to wake up my cards, I'll knock my cards, like just take my fist and knock them. And I think, Anna, you said that someone did whack their cards on
Yeah, they
their
banged
desk.
the whole pack on the table, really violently. I didn't like that. I felt kind of
Well, if it
sorry
works
for
for them, then hey,
But yeah, if it
God.
works for them, more power
Mm.
to them. But yeah, they do that. Knocking is common, and it doesn't damage the cards at all. Anything else that you can remember that people do? No, I think we covered most of them.
I know one of the tarot reader who does let the clients to touch the cards.
Mm-hmm.
They ask them to pick the card, but then they take the card, they put the card on the top, and then they knock the deck, right, 3 times. So they literally, that's kind of ritual, removing the energy of the client from the cards, because they pick the card for certain energy. It works for them. I've never tried this technique, sincerely, because it doesn't work for me when I let other people touch the cards. Then I'm getting this confusing energy reading in my cards.
Mm-hmm.
I think the only time I really was doing it more so is when I went to, how you go do psychic fairs. I don't know if you've ever been to them. And I was doing multi-readings. So I had multi-different people, multi-different questions. And I didn't want that energy to be still within the cards from the previous person. So, I mean, that's what I did at the time.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but I heard from somebody that sometimes when the deck is really, really heavily charged, they bury it for a while. They actually put it under the soil. They actually they protect it. Of course, they put it in some sort of, container or whatever.
Yeah.
They dig and they put it there and they wait for some time for it to be actually, back to normal.
Ripe.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's
Yeah, burying it. Yeah, I don't know if it rains a lot. Yes, I don't know about that, but yeah.
Well, it wouldn't be happening here with the snow in Canada.
No.
No.
You have to wait till
I'd probably be putting it in my, if I have a plant, I'd be putting in the plant soil or something. I'd be worried that it would get wet somehow, and now I've got another problem. I'm hanging them out on a line then.
I have a question that's not pertaining the cleansing of cards, but your reading table. Some people, when they do their readings, they have their space, their, private particular space only for that. Do you have a place where you usually read your cards, or do you just read them anywhere?
If I read them in the place I always read them in, it's all got to do about with comfort. Sometimes I'll even light a candle because the candle makes me feel relaxed. I use the same spot because I'm comfortable there. But I can easily, like if I'm in a hurry, quickly whip one out, just chuck it on the bed and go, okay. But I
Yeah.
prefer to do it in my own space, yeah. And then if I go out to a pub or something like that, I would take my travel deck, which is a little one that fits in my pocket, and then I can do that anywhere on a table.
Yeah, I've got a travel deck as well, you know.
Beer stained tables, anything like that, it's fine. Yeah.
Yeah. You have to expect with your travel deck it will get stained by beer or drinks or something like that.
Yeah, but it gives it character as long as they
So
don't stick together.
plastic welcome.
It helps the energy of the deck.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah. But that's the whole thing. That's separate. I wouldn't use that same deck I use at home because my one at home is more personal. Where the other one in the pub is just a smaller one. It's
Yeah.
So you have decks will travel.
yes, that's correct.
That's
Yeah. So if I have to go to like a festival or do like readings more serious, then I would take my deck that's really been hammered and that I've cleaned loads of times and looks like it's got 100 miles on it. I would use that one, not the new one, because I'm comfortable with that one. And then obviously my spare deck, because sometimes the deck doesn't talk to you, like that's what we're talking about now. Then I always have a spare deck in case your deck's not talking to you and needs cleansing, because you can't always cleanse them. So it's always worth having a spare deck, because that's what I do. I just use a different deck.
I've got always a deck in my bag, and one of them is mini Marseille, and second one is super mini from Cracker playing card deck. I can easily put in they travel with me everywhere.
The trouble is with the ones from the crackers, you need to take your glasses with you as well.
Not really, because it's just a playing card deck.
Okay.
Right? Yes, but it's really good and handy. And I sometimes, like when I pull, for example, temperance or full, it's time to go home from the pub, right?
I usually grab, like I've got, a lot of decks, as you know. So for me, it's a deck that I've been using lately, or I use a lot, but it's not uncommon for me to say, take 5 decks with me. Because it's, to me, when I get to that, wherever I'm going, it's going to be, okay, what do I feel drawn? Like if I let anyone have a choice at that point, like I don't let them touch my cards, but I will let them maybe choose a deck that they feel drawn towards, and I'll respect that choice.
Oh, that's okay, yeah.
But and that's how I do it. Like I just feel, okay, you can choose. I'll take 5 decks with me and say, okay, which deck do you feel you'll feel comfortable with?
So what's your ritual when you buy a new deck? Do you clean it, and then what else do you do?
New deck? I don't
For
have a
myself?
new ritual. No.
Yeah.
New? Just
with
check.
with a new
Yeah.
deck, I will always go through every card.
Check.
And then once I've gone through every card and looked at it, maybe I'll go through twice, because the second time I go through them, it will be actually looking at the deck, seeing what this deck is and getting comfortable with it. And then I will shuffle the hell out of it. Once I've deciphered, okay, if you're all there, now I will just shuffle you extremely so I can then use it for the next reading that I want to do.
Because I think I've got a little bit naughty way how to connect with new deck, because I put the crystals on it for one day, because time to wait for full moon or new moon, that's too long. And then I take the deck and I sleep with it for one night under my pillow.
Well, I will have a new deck probably on my bed, only because I will get up in the morning, because I've now got a new deck and I want to try some readings that morning. So that's kind of like it's just something I do, not necessarily to connect with the deck, but I would certainly say I probably do.
Does anybody of you use the sound healing?
Sound healing. No.
Well, I do have different bells. I don't necessarily have used them with the cards because I've used them, say, to cleanse my environment. I will ring a bell, and I could ring a bell, say, around myself or my surroundings, which of course would affect the cards. But I do respect that, the idea of using different tone, getting that energy out there. It does make a difference, definitely. Or singing bowls. I have singing bowls.
Yeah.
So that definitely changes the environment.
I think knocking on the deck.
Only-
Hmm?
Yeah, knocking on the deck. I've done a lot more.
Yeah.
I've done that.
I've seen some of the tarot readers, they, before pulling the cards, they 3 times knock on the deck.
We haven't mentioned one thing that I think many people do in many communities. It's interviewing the deck.
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
You ask the deck what you like to read about, what are you not prepared to read about, what are questions that you will not accept. It's almost like asking a person what they're prepared to offer you, because art doesn't necessarily reflect the type of reading that you will do. A deck with childish images or fairy tales doesn't necessarily only read for cute things and kids. It can be a deep, complex, and sometimes brutal deck. It depends on what it likes to read on.
Mm-hmm.
And it varies from reader to reader. The same deck will love to read on psychological issues for me, and probably love to read on, I don't know, romance things for Susan. So it's really, the person using the deck that makes the whole difference. But interviews are fun. I think you get to know a little bit more of the deck you bought if you ask it some questions. And fun ones too. For example, what's your favorite ice cream? I mean, you get to know the personality of it. You create, it's almost like a character. You learn to know their fears, what they like to do. They're specialists on something, but they also have their preferences. They have their likes and dislikes. So it's fun. It's fun. I think we should bring in some.
And I agree with you, because maybe that's something we should do more often, because we get a question from a client, or we're asking a question, and maybe that deck just that's not what they're about, and they don't want to answer those kind of questions.
Mm-hmm. For example, the Victorian Romantic, very popular from Baba Studios, super expensive, beautiful deck, amazing, gorgeous deck. People read the title, look at the image, and say, oh, that's for relationships. In my case, no, that's good for crime. That deck reads really well for crime, for people being killed. Why? I don't know. It just does. It likes. So art doesn't necessarily give you a good clue as to what to use the deck for.
Yes, that's so true.
And because my 2 favorite decks is the Rider-Waite and the Hanson Roberts.
Mhm.
And if I want to talk to somebody, I find that the Rider-Waite, because the images change the meaning, but in the Rider-Waite deck, I find it to be a lot more harsh and to the point, and can be quite cold and callous, and tells it like it is, like the King of Swords. The Rider-Waite card for me is like the King of Swords, just says it, and sometimes it can upset people. And I see the cards, I go, how am I going to word that without upsetting the people? But if I use the Hanson Roberts, it tends to be a little bit more subtle about how it tells me the story. It's a bit more of an analogy, and I have to go about it in a longer way, but it's a lot more softer and a bit more subtle. That's the only way I can describe it. It's got a different feel about it. It's like a different images to tell you the story, but now they've got different options. They have to use different pictures to give me the message.
Yeah, it's a softer approach, but it's funny because you mentioned the Hanson Roberts, the whimsical tarot, which was created by the same person, the whimsical. It's now, I think, out of print. also have the same type of images, same creator, same artist. It's not subtle at all. It isn't. So again, I think it's more on how you interact with your decks. Maybe if I use the Hanson Roberts, it won't be as tactful and subtle as when you read it. You see what I mean?
Yeah.
If we gave Hanson Roberts to all of us, we would probably have different feels by, when using it.
That's why there's literally thousands of decks out there, because the author, the creator had created it because maybe they didn't like what they were getting from another deck that they hadn't created. So therefore they created deck, but then we as users, even though that author says, this is why I created it, this is what it's about, this is when you begin to realize, I think, that each person reads that deck differently. And even though the author may have a very specific reason about that deck, it doesn't necessarily mean that's how, when you start to read it, it's not the same energy.
That's so true when you compare even old Marseille decks to the modern recreation as well. It's completely different energies there.
And sometimes you look at a deck, you fall in love with the deck, you say, oh my God, I would be able to read so much with that deck. You buy it, you hold it in your hands, and it's mute.
Yeah.
It just doesn't work. Some people, give it away, give the deck away or exchange for another deck. In my experience, I leave it in the drawer for as long as it takes so that we can connect. I have decks that only started talking 5 years later or 6 years later. It was not the right time. It's like meeting people. Sometimes you see people at a certain age and you click, and then when you see them years later, it's not the same thing. You don't have the same energy. It doesn't really jive as much. So give your deck some time. Yeah, give your deck some time. I cannot simply just give away. Decks are expensive in my country, so I have to keep them. But my experience is if you give them sometimes, there's only one deck that never talked to me. That one is going away. But of all the decks I have, it took some time, but they started talking to me after a while.
Yeah.
A bit like Bob Dylan. It grows on you.
Yeah. Maybe question of maturity. I don't know. It's a phase of your life. I don't know. It's like reading a book. Sometimes you read a book, it doesn't, it doesn't touch you as much. But if you read it later, then, oh my God, how did I miss this? It's like, oh my God. It's because of life experience. It's
because you're at a different, you could be at a different age.
Yeah, different stage of your life, mindset, experience, everything. Yeah.
And you finally get it, where before you didn't get it. Yeah. Or doing it, you talk a lot about talking, like you take the deck, you put it in, a card or whatever. So maybe you need to reintroduce a deck. Say, okay, what's, tell me about you. What do you want? What kind of readings do you want? Or what do you want to read on?
I know some of the decks my friends are using, they just have the deck for love reading, the deck for practical reading, the deck for other questions, and as well for true crime as well if they have questions.
But that can change.
Yeah,
that can change. Yeah, that can change. The same deck may change tastes all of a sudden.
Thank you for listening. Please like, subscribe, and follow us. And feel free to leave a comment.